Happy Thursday. Time for another edition of Singularity Soothsayers with my fellow soothsayer, Nico. How you doing, man?
Doing well, sir. How about yourself?
Pretty good, pretty good. I can't complain. I get to open and end my day uh, with Nico. So those are always good days. Um, keep it, you always keep it in perspective, man. So
I
I love our
try.
conversations.
I try.
And this is how we make good on the earlier requests to go on tangents in our earlier episode, where we did a good job of sticking to the structure, and helps when you know this is coming up later at night.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, what's on your mind today?
Um, Not much. Just wanted to very quickly get it out of the way that the whole deep seek fascination seems to be done and over with. That was the hypiest hype that I've ever hyped in the hypest of hype places. So it turns out that the model used GPT-4 as a trainer, and for most people who don't like get the difference between the two, one is like building a car from the ground up, not knowing anything, and just working your way through it and sort of like designing the Chilton's manual as you go along. And the other is like having a master mechanic who's working on every single piece of the car, just standing right next to you, helping you work on it as you keep going along. So, of course, the training takes way less time, way less effort, right? And you can focus on other things like maybe you change the weights a little bit, or again, the type of the where you focus the training and where you make your adjustments does make a difference. So basically, they retuned a GPT-4 class model so that it could perform at nearly, an O1 level, right? So what does that mean at the end of the day? It just means that if you tuned an O1 model, it would run somewhere near a low version of like maybe O3 mini or something, right? And then if you tuned O3, then you would, who knows? Like that's all we're talking about, right? And it's cool. Again, it's very cool to prove that you can get that close with the low cost aspect of things. It's been talked about. I think I posted a video today from Sam Altman back in 2023 where he talks about the whole point of pushing frontier models and the whole point of making the advancements is to bring about a, a period of abundance. And you can't do that without continually pushing the boundaries, without continually pushing it to get to the maximum level, right? So even if they can copy something that is like the old stuff, I don't know why that really freaks anyone out because the new stuff is so much further ahead than that and takes so much more effort and so much more computational power. All of it, right? Like that's the whole point. Is that if you could do if they could do the same thing that these guys were doing with whatever the cost, if that were actually true, right? Don't you think that everybody at the forefront would be just throwing their arms up? Just, wow, I can't believe we got it wrong this whole time. I can't. Well, why didn't we just think of doing that? Right? You guys like literally the smartest people that could possibly be working on this stuff are working at these like top four companies, right? At least in the US. I don't know what it looks like around the world, but just based on the models that are available on a global scale, yeah, it seems like we have the top, right? And this is like even when we're talking about like measured performance, you're talking about measured like end user facing performance. So we know we have Sonnet 3.5. We haven't seen Opus 3.5. There's probably a really good reason why we haven't seen it. It must be really ridiculously overpowered. And it doesn't surprise me at all because Dario just happens to, I don't know what it is. That guy, he's got it figured out with Claude to a degree where it's nuts. It really is. Like, to be honest, like, even the fact that Sonic can do what. So, like, I don't know if this is a proper comparison or not. I'm moving beyond DeepSeek, by the way. I'm just going to forget about it at this point. Um, it is very interesting to me that we have computer use with Sonnet 3.5, but it took a 1 to do operator, theoretically. I don't know if operator is on top of 4.0 or if it's on top of 0.1. Seems like it might be on top of 0.1. Um, and I just say it's interesting only because of the fact that, like, okay, but if computer uses with 3.5 Sonnet, like, we're talking about a model that is getting, it's, as far as far as we're concerned, it's getting old, right? Like 3.5 Sonnet is like old by comparison to a lot of the stuff that is rolled out lately. So it's sort of like Anthropic's turn to drop something, but I really don't see them. They have been scaling back on bandwidth so badly over the last 2 months. The last month in particular, it's been really, really, really tough. Um,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say about like Opus. Like, is it because they because it's too powerful, or because like then the rest of us would get like one prompt per day? Uh, you know, like what's going on there? Anyways, like I keep hearing like infrastructure, and we know. I think this is it's the fascinating part, and it's like reiterates that at the end of the day, it's infrastructure,
mhm.
like hardware, that is holding us back right now more than anything else. And like just the intertwined services, like all the platforms that are built on these other platforms. And like as soon as like it became clear that it was like just a better coding, had better coding output, all of a
Mhm.
sudden all these like really cost effective, affordable like platforms started coming out. Uh, and it obviously that's taken a toll and eaten up a lot of bandwidth. So I can't imagine what like the contracts and like the relationship, like how are they even like structured to
I
manage
don't
all
know.
that?
I don't know, and I gotta say, like, it's unfortunate in that you know OpenAI has, at least for the time being, and I don't know how much longer. I don't know what, like, real advantage beyond, like, the money per se there is that goes on there, but, like, at least OpenAI has its partnership with Microsoft, right? So they kind of have, like, Big Daddy Microsoft to be able to lean back on if they needed, I don't know, something per se, right? At least there's a partnership that exists there. That isn't the case with Anthropic. They're not partnered with anybody. And I'm sure a lot of that has to do with the fact that they don't want any outside influence over what it is that they're doing. And I really, really respect that. It seems like it's kind of maybe putting them at a disadvantage. Maybe it's the fact that Dario wants to be able to do more with less or try to do more with less. Um,
So what's
I
their relationship with Amazon?
Their relationship with Amazon is complicated realistically because there's I think there's a lot that goes on by way of shared research um, in exchange for, like, for these funding rounds. I know that there's also equity that's being purchased within the funding rounds. So, like, there's a stake in it for Amazon at the end of the day. Should Anthropic ever decide to go public, then Amazon gets a piece of the pie. So, I mean, there is that to be said about it, but I also think that, yeah, there has to be. Surely, there are some meetings that are held, or some advice that's given, or something of that nature. I imagine. Um, I wish I could say that it was working well because Rufus is not the greatest thing that I've ever used in terms of like a shopping assistant, which Amazon purportedly was going to have something that was going to be, really amazing, but kind of just seems to be more in the way than anything else. Um, but yeah, and at the same time, they also have funding that they get from Google, right? So they get funding from what you could consider to be opposing forces. Um, and I think it's just vested interest in their progress, right? And especially the fact that Dario is not, most of these labs are not shy to release whatever research it is that they're doing, right? So if you think about it, it I don't know. This might be the case. I don't know that this is the case. I can, can't really assume on this one. But if I had to, I would say if you're not going to be the leader, you might as well help somebody else take the lead, and then at least that way you can follow behind, right? Um, so you just draft them essentially,
Yeah.
and I think that might be where things are going because Google is doing all right now with Gemini, but that's only because of the research that's getting poured into it for DeepMind. It's not really as a result of like, oh, we have a particular AI lab that is specifically working on Gemini and making these advancements. Like, no, not really. You're doing it for DeepMind, and you're doing it for like Willow was developed for DeepMind. It wasn't developed for Gemini. Like, there's the use case is very different. Um, I think that what is going to help is once we get the implementation of these AI processors, um, as opposed to like the regular processing chips that we've got in place now. It just really pisses me off that Apple has the first contract with TSMC. I don't know. I don't know if they did it like just to piss everybody else off, like and just like stand in the way of progress or something like that. Because
TSMC or Apple?
TSMC, TSMC is a factory should be up and running before the summer of this year. Excuse me. And so the first company that has a contract with them for chips is Apple. It's like the first the basically, if you could think about this as like, okay, so like what is this semiconductor factory? What is all this stuff like these chip factories? What does it stand for? You can think of chip factories the same as like um, production plants, but let's say that it was like a car production plant. So it would be like GM opening a factory in some other place, right? It's just a factory that makes cars. But in this particular case, TSMC, which is Taiwan manufacturer, or what was it? Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation. Um, they are the best. They're the best at it, hands down. Like there's no two ways about it. So much so that there's two things that they've said. One, they are having a very, very hard time finding the specialized labor that they need in order to facilitate just the hardware installation that they're doing. And two, that they're also having a hard time getting the raw materials that they need, which is odd, like seriously odd to me. I think the raw material they're looking for or that they need the most of is sulfur, and happens to be so like it's just strange because because we have plenty of sulfur producing plants in the U.S. So I'm not really sure what's going on there. So there's like some
Uh,
odd.
yeah. Now we're getting into like my material science background and
You tell
element
me.
purity, like purity of material, like the whole supply chain, like comes into play, which is a lot of the reason why they started onshoring, this stuff. And that's where like um, rare earth metals, China happens to be one of uh, actually the most abundant source of it. So I was listening to a podcast recently that was trying to break down the supply chain and how the tariff decisions that are being made can and will impact. 'Cause- So, like for example, we have restrictions on like semiconductors going over to China.
Hmm.
But then to make some of that stuff, pieces of the supply chain at least need materials from China. So it's that's where it's not always about like the abundance that we
Right.
might be looking at and like just staring at in the face, like why don't you? It's right here, and it's like, oh, let me get these 10 government contracts out of the way. Um, yeah,
It's
so
why I
it's
always
super
wonder.
interesting. Like,
It's what makes me wonder. It's whenever I see something like that, it reminds me of living in Florida and paying a ridiculous amount for orange juice when it's right
it's right
it's right
outside your
there.
door.
So like I don't understand like why. It's like no, because we send it to Peru. Like what? I don't understand. What are you talking about? Um, so yeah, it is a little bit ridiculous, but so in terms of like who's put the first order into that plant, yeah, it's Apple. I couldn't tell you why. Maybe it's because they made a promise with their phones that they can't keep up with, and I don't know. I
I mean that,
Everybody thought the new processor was supposed to be in the new phone, and I don't know if they just lied to everybody, and they were like, we just stay up to AI on it, and the real one's coming soon or something, right?
yeah. I mean that's where like previous vendor supplier relationships come into play sometimes. Like, and if they already had a long-standing relationship with Apple, like that definitely could have weighed into it. But there's, yeah, it gets pretty convoluted when you try to dig into the details. But I just also like just pulled up our friend Perplexity here. I'm gonna
Mm.
share my screen because I think there's another unknown quantity when it comes to Anthropic, um, and that's their like they have relationship with the U.S. government
Well, yeah.
that others don't, right? And like I can't imagine, or I wouldn't be surprised if that like heavily impacted um, their ability to, it's like another partner that you're answering to at this point. I don't know.
That's more open AI, especially given like chat. I think it is right. I think it's like ChatGPT.gov now or something. Like they've
Okay.
officially launched their .gov site today. Let me shoot you that link so you can pull that up. Um, so in terms of and to your point, Dario definitely is heavily involved uh, with the government when it comes to AI safety, and also with the EU like AI safety boards. Like in terms of who is most concerned with safety, it's hands down Anthropic, like across the board. Um, it is interesting. I wonder. Yeah, there is something there about it. Haiku. Okay. Offered with AWS. So yeah, that's interesting because, and that doesn't surprise me. It shouldn't surprise anybody. Well, I don't know if it surprises anybody else. I don't care how it makes you feel. These are just facts. I don't. There's nothing I can do about it. Amazon has had a very long standing contract with the CIA for a long time now. Okay, they pay the CIA literally, and have, or I should say, I'm sorry, the CIA has a contract with Amazon. I think it's like I forget what the amount is. It's ridiculous, and it's obviously for help with surveillance equipment, with all that kind of stuff. So it doesn't really surprise me that this is kind of what I was talking about, right? That apparently Amazon has some access to Haiku or to Anthropic models as a result of being an investor with Anthropic. It must be, I imagine it's part of their contract somewhere there, um, or it's just an extension through AWS, so they automatically get to give it to whomever they want, and Anthropic can kind of wipe their hands of it a little bit, which is kind of not so great. I don't see them like. I know that Dario wants nothing to do with military application. I know Sam wants nothing to do with military application. So I don't see either one of them doing that type of thing. But I can't say for sure. I mean, I know that those two in particular don't want to see that kind of stuff happen, and they are not interested in doing that kind of thing. But Sam always says one thing and then does another. That's all I could say. That's the unfortunate part. So
What
introducing
are we even
ChatGPT
looking at
dot.
here?
This is chatgpt.gov, designed to streamline government agencies' access to OpenAI's frontier models.
Is that intended to communicate like our visibility into this
Yes.
program? Like that image that has no visibility and it's just like, what the hell are we
That's
looking
how
at?
clear that's how clear cut this program is, trust me.
Oh
Um
man. Like what's
so
happening here? Honestly, like just from any perspective, what I'm sorry, I can't turn the marketing brain off. Like what are we trying to do with this image at the top?
I don't know. And I got to tell you, I guess it kind of goes along with um I don't know, Sam seems to have a fascination with the fact that they are bad at marketing. They're bad at like naming their models, they're bad at like how they do rollouts and like all that kind of stuff, right? And I'm not so sure why you would want to continue such a trend, but I guess that's his thing and
I
he's,
mean, his self-deprecating humor is a little bit endearing, I must
right.
say. But yeah,
Oh
I
man, I
don't.
don't know. I mean, I'm not going to I'm not going to get too into it, but there was something that happened very recently that was also equally as confusing as this graphic that sort of had the entire country confused as to what the hell was going on.
Okay, that's fair. On the same day as the
So
date at
this,
the top of this.
yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know. Meme, maybe
Yeah. Okay.
hidden meme. I, I wonder if there's some sort of like filter you de-blur the image.
I know, right? Like super, super inside jokes.
Oh man,
Yeah.
would be great. Um, so ChatGPT.gov got announced a couple days ago and has access to all the same features as GPT Enterprise Edition. This is basically for government agencies specifically to be able to have access to ChatGPT. So if you were wondering in the or supposed to answer the question of like who is most closely related to the government, which again, I wouldn't put it past Sam because of the fact that they're like the chief uh, involved persons with Project Stargate. So makes sense, lines up. Not not entirely not entirely throwing me for a loop in terms of uh, this being led by them or being like sort of their uh, them being the ones to get asked by the government or being willing to go along with it. It's a little bit surprising to me, or at least I don't know. It's not surprising. I guess it's surprising how much he's willing to go along to get along, right? Like I didn't see him wanting to rub shoulders with Trump, but he clearly understands that like in order to get in order to do what they need to do, he's gonna have to like just go along with it and
Gotta have
nod and yeah,
resources.
right, right. So I don't. I'm not gonna knock him. I was, if you want to know what side I'm on, then it's hilarious. My wife and I are actually going through the Avengers uh, series again, and just finished Ultron yesterday, and very much on the side of, mad science. Like, yeah, it might be wrong, but let's take a stab at it and see what happens because could be really awesome. And if it's really awesome, it's totally worth it. So yeah, I don't know. I think with with what we've seen in the last just in the last month, right? What we've seen with O3, we haven't seen anything from Anthropic. Assuming that they were to release something soon, if they did, uh, I think I think whatever it is would definitely be like game changing by comparison to what we're doing with O1. I know that Sam wants to release O3 Mini like this month, or at least said that he was going to release it this month. Um, wouldn't surprise me if he releases it tomorrow. Like, makes sense. Last day of the month, Friday, might as well. They're not. He typically hasn't released stuff on a Friday. Usually waits until the beginning or like middle of the week. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that if that actually happens. It's a little like so so how like what's your view? Because what I'm seeing now, right, is that we had a lot of time with 3 and 3.5, a ton of time with 3.5, and then we had a really good amount of time with 4, and we learned how to use 4, and we learned how to use like image creation, and we learned how to do like data analysis. And boy, plugins was like a thing for a minute, right? There had to have been like 5,000 plugins or something like that within the span of a few weeks, with that being available. And then we were on to 4.0, right? And we've been on 4.0 for a while. Here we've had O1 for, man, shoot, we had O1 preview 6 months ago. We had O1 just last month. Shipments, right? So I mean, like not even that. Yeah, so like literally a month ago, and now we're on O3, like possibly O3 Mini. So we, even in terms of model consumption, if you guys aren't noticing the time frame, you've gone from 1 year to 8 months to 6 months to 1 month.
I know one like development started like a couple years ago, right?
Right. So that's the crazy part, right? Like the the training and whatnot on 4 finished in 22. So you can I don't know where. um I know that team like Sam's team splitting happened at the end of 23, right? November 23, there was like that huge split with everybody. And I think that like even just in terms of mentalities towards alignment, there was just a massive divide at that point. Um, Ilya and Leopold, and I don't what's her gosh, I don't want to forget her name. Can't remember them all. Um, Gosh, she was the chief technical officer, I believe.
Okay.
Anyhow, it'll come to me. She once she walked away, I think that was kind of the last straw in the hey, let's all stay aligned bucket. Um, and kind of after that, it's been full speed ahead in terms of hey, who cares what the last model can do? Why don't we just like keep going? Because this new stuff is really intriguing, right?
Well, here's
Um,
what I could, if I could read the tea leaves for a moment, not having any. I haven't been thinking about this at all, but so naturally I'll lean on some things I've been saying in terms of like the model. It's already past us, like in terms of like it might as well be super intelligence for most humans that are going to interact with it right now.
right.
And if that has any truth, um, then they don't need to slow down to figure out like how humans are going to use it. Like humans interacting with it may no longer add any value
Mm-hmm.
to the build and the training. And in conjunction with what you just described, like if if she's in it, if she was in it to like get it figured out, and they've been training it for this long, and she believes anything like that, then she's like, all right, my job's done here. Like it's gonna just take the baton and train itself into super intelligence. Don't break it, guys.
Yeah, I mean, it really does like it does feel like we are just steps away, right? Because realistically, I think there's plenty of people who just don't want to believe how close we are. They want to think that we're much further away, because if we are closer than they think, um, I guess it's detrimental for them, and they're having a hard time coping with it and all that kind of stuff. To me, I don't care. I think it's much closer than most people think. I thought it would be like 2030. I think it's actually sooner than that. It's probably like 27 or 28 or something like that. And when I say that, I mean like super intelligence. Like general intelligence, that's like a thing of this year. So like that's 25. That's, it's done. Let's move past it. I'm sure like it's going it's so funny because all of it said the same thing. He's like, it's gonna come and go, and people will just be like, "Oh yeah, so that was the thing that happened." And I can at least I would love to be able to say that when it's fully deployed, I guess, that people won't really they won't care, and in a sense they won't know any better. So it's almost like the best way I can the best way I can think of this is like smartphones, right? You didn't, especially when it came to Apple, you didn't know the interface, you didn't know any better, but it was still like fairly intuitive. You still pretty much understood how to navigate it, like kind of, pretty much made sense to you. Could figure it out pretty easily, right? So it's very much the to me, I don't know, it's a lot the same way that like once we get to this level where it's going to be like general intelligence, it's going to be so seamless in how it works with you, and in not even just a agent capacity. It's going to be like we're going to be well beyond that, right? With general intelligence, it's not even like an agentic thing is like cool, but it'll be more like very much more assist, like I don't even know, assistant is the wrong word, like companion almost. It's better, it's close, yeah, it's closer. um
Companion, collaborator,
yeah,
like
collaborator, I like that, because companion people are going to get all weird about.
I
So
mean, but people are gonna certainly use it in that capacity,
yeah, obviously,
right?
yeah. um
Um, yeah,
and
yeah.
like is it that's the thing, is the ideation that's going to come out of that, right? Because again, I think a lot of people don't use this tech now because it's not intuitive and it's not easy. So like if like even for my brother, if I'm telling somebody non-tech to get involved with this stuff, yeah, okay, everybody's got a smartphone, so now I'm telling you to download an app, and like now I'm having to tell you like how to use this thing and like what you should be using it for. But me telling you what you should use it for doesn't solve your use case, right? And at the same time, it may be that the situation where you don't want to give up what your use case is. I'm starting to find that more and more. I'm starting to see a lot more of like people have seen what it can do, and so they're now starting to like guard their use case, because like if they give it up, then somebody's going to mimic it, and then all of a sudden like I don't know, it's going to make them afraid or something. When in reality, it's like, look, you should be allowing these things to do what the menial stuff is so that you could do something better, so you could do
Please.
something more.
Ah, let go. Um, because like I mean, not winning this tug of war. So like,
No.
save your energy, um, and put it towards something. Put it towards learning why. Like honestly,
That's the thing, guys, is like, if you can, it's going to take a minute. I don't know. It's going to take more. I don't know. However long you want it to take. I don't care. Just figure out how to cope with the fact that in 10 years, it won't matter. What does that mean? It means that by 2035, we will have something that exists that's smart, that is hopelessly smarter than any human being could ever be. All of these like ridiculous ass questions that you have in your head right now of how are we going to solve this, and well, we're never going to figure this out, and we're never going to do, yeah, we won't, but it will. So like just stop it, right? Like, I don't know what we do from now until then. I don't. But I do know that in 10 years, this whole idea of we have to be super smart or something like that, or, I'm not saying that like college isn't important. I'm not saying that education's not important. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just trying to back up what my man Chris here is saying, in that, like, do something meaningful. Learn how to critically think. Learn how to be creative. Do something that goes beyond just, learning how to make life cycle stages work.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
That's a piss poor example, but I mean, like,
It's
you,
not
you know what
really
I'm getting at.
like that's where like we're so close. We're already there in a lot of cases. Like the things that you've never been good at, especially relate as it relates to data and ones
Mm-hmm.
and zeros and black and white. Like just don't. Like AI's already better than you, and like that's where you like all the personal and professional, like the business cases that relate to the people involved in the situation. Like that's where you just give it the data, give it the understanding, and then work with it. This is what we mean by collaborator, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't have to work within the confines that you've been given anymore. And if you want to call life cycle stages, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? And then like let it like set it up so that AI just labels everybody based on your definitions and it maintains it. Like that's why most companies that have been avoiding digital transformation have an opportunity to just shortcut like right past it. But for the same reason they didn't digitally transform, like it requires just giving up control that like we're
Mm-hmm.
not good at that part.
No, no, we're not.
Right. Um,
Especially
something
with
super
decision making.
interesting that I've been thinking about recently is like it's kind of dawned on me like if there's any truth to uh, Satya said about SaaS, um, which I believe there is, in terms of at the very least the environment's going to change drastically, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if it looks like a race to like the top of like usage or like true AI based chat user experience, like to just be a window into the data. I mean, the video I saw the other day, the way he was describing how he worked with dynamics already from Copilot
Mm-hmm.
was exactly what we have been talking about. Like where it
Yeah.
just goes and grabs the data, whatever, like from the center of his operating system, basically.
Yeah.
Uh, and So let's say there's some truth to like just that this app layer, this user interface layer is no longer needed because AI is doing that like all over the place. SaaS gets impacted. A very high percentage of HubSpot's user base, customer base is SaaS.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
how do you think they're thinking about that?
I mean,
Like,
they
their
better be.
customer base is at risk.
I mean, so the majority of the companies that I've talked to that have asked this question or have put this forward, they are scared of like, okay, well, what happens when this software can just duplicate what I can do? I'll tell you this much: I did this at Inbound this year. You should hope that I never come to any um, any sort of conference that you're at, because especially if you're a vendor, you'll regret it. Um, I asked pretty much every vendor that had anything to do with data or anything to do with software platform or something like that. Asked them all pretty much the same question, and I initially was going to ask it just knowing the softwares and stuff that exist out there, but then HubSpot did me a huge favor and released Breeze, so that made it like even easier than I thought it was going to be. And so I went to most of these vendors and I said, okay, well, look, what is like what without you don't have to tell me the secret sauce. I totally understand. You can't talk about that, but what is it that you're gonna do in like the next year and a half that's gonna differentiate you from like everybody else? Because like everyone's gonna have the same tools real soon, right? And if you don't understand what I mean when I say this, and if you don't understand what we're talking about when we say that it's gonna zero out the environment, anybody remember Jasper? I mean, it was relevant for a maybe. Was it relevant? It was relevant for like 6 months, right? And then HubSpot bought them or partnered with them or something, and now like it doesn't even matter, right? Like why? Why would you even use Jasper? You could absolutely use GPT for free and do everything that you could possibly do with Jasper. I don't care what it is. I don't care what's in that platform right now. The more they keep adding to it, the more Canva they keep becoming, and the more they keep losing that race because Canva's already there. So what are you doing in their back door? Like they're going to knock you over with their advertising dollars, right? Um, so what is this pointing towards? Everybody's going to become the same. Everybody's going to have the same tools. Everybody's going to have the same stuff. So how do you differentiate? What data do you have currently? What are you holding on to? Do you have customer interaction data? Do you have customer relationship data? Do you have customer trend data? Whatever that is, now you need to figure out a way to leverage those analytics. And it was about, it was pretty much when GPT released when I said, at least to my wife, yeah, I can see how APIs are now going to be like the way of the future in terms of like that's how you're going to make money is with your API key. You're not going to make money as like a traditional selling software thing anymore. You're just going to sell your key. You're going to license your key, and that's how you're going to make money. And I'm seeing it left, right, and center already. And that's how it's going to work. So if you're Joe Blow business, you have been doing business with your customers for whatever decades it is. Take all of that data that you have, all of that customer trend data, everything that they like to do, how they like to shop with that particular stuff, all of the psychographic information, all of the write in information that's just been sitting around that nobody's been looking at, throw all of that stuff into a language model and start talking to it and start asking it questions and start prodding it about like what's really going on under there, what's really going on with that data, right? That's the first place to start. And then the second place is how do I leverage this? You can almost ask the model itself, how do I leverage this data as an API access to lease to somebody else, right? In what way could I leverage this with an outside source in some fashion, and what should those token rates look like and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's partially that, and then the other part of it is, if all you do is write software and you don't have good data collection, start writing really good agents. Start being really good at writing agents and putting agents together and figuring out use cases and building agents for them, or you're shit out of luck, right? Like, that's, if you were good at creating software, be good at working with agents. If you were good at creating a service out of your software, be good at turning your data into accessible data for others, right? Like,
Here,
that's the go forward, right?
here,
Either
let's help them out here, because I think it's like comes back to the critical thinking
mhm,
aspects. Like, and if we don't have that, we're not asking questions, and then we're not gonna get anywhere. So let's just ask our friend Perplexity here. Um, how can I get better at asking questions? Like so often, so many conversations comes back to like just ask. Like,
right,
wherever you
right,
are in your learning journey. That's why this is different than any other change that we've experienced. Like the change itself can help you change. Like it
hmm,
can participate in the change. Um, so, and this is just one model. Like you could do this with any model.
yeah,
And like this is where it's like basics, right? And that's where when you like, it starts with mindset, of course,
yes,
right? Like, first of all, this mindset of just wanting to learn more, right?
hmm,
Um, but also the collaborative, like seeing AI as a collaborative, thought partner uh, at the very least, right?
yeah,
So we've got develop a questioning mindset, um, purposeful questioning, use different types of questions. And at this point, like what I would do if I were trying to, if I were starting to learn these tools, it's like the moment anything resonates, um, you just ask it another question about that thing.
right,
Like, and you just keep going. And it's like the five whys, it's like anything you've ever heard about, just keep digging and digging. And um, yeah, man, like it's just so simple.
it is. And that final, it makes a segue. I'm about to make a first shameless, maybe it's the second shameless plug, I'm not sure. um I don't want to do too many of them, but I'm putting together, I have put together, um and we'll be launching tomorrow, a training slash mentoring program. It's going to be called Discovering AI with Nico, and it's going to be the purpose of it. Let's put it this way: the headline that you'll read for a lot of the material is going to say, like, master practical AI skills in hours, not weeks. So the purpose of it, from my standpoint, and what I'm trying to do for everybody, is I am trying to get it so that you can walk away from working with me for a half hour, an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and you're armed with skills that I won't see you again for like another month, maybe 2 months or something like that. You'll just be off and running, okay? And we were talking about it this morning, a little bit, and what I was telling Chris is, I know that I've done my job in terms of coaching and tutoring and training someone when I see that, just like those lights just go off, right? When I show you something, or I show you how to finesse something, or how to rework something with with any of these tools, and I see that spark go off, and That's all you need. And it's every time I see it, it's the same spark. It's curiosity. That's all it takes. It just takes that little spark, and all of a sudden you're gone. And every single person I've worked with, as soon as they've hit that spark, I just kind of back away, and it's like, yeah, okay, let me see. Like you go ahead, you take the reins. Let me see what you got. Like, go ahead and do stuff. And inevitably, I mean, every single time, like Chris wasn't the first one. I've worked with George Thomas. I've worked with a few other people, and uh, inevitably every single time you guys all just start shooting me all these outputs that you've gotten from the model, and like, oh man, I did this, and oh, take a look at this thing that it gave me, and oh my god, you should see this. And it just it really warms the heart, as they say. Because that's why I do it in order to make sure that people can stay up to date on like where everything is with AI and how to use it. And so I'm going to be offering essentially two levels. It's going to be that you can either do a half hour for $45, or you can do an hour for $75. So basically making the hour a little bit more advantageous to you in terms of the cost. But at the same time, it's also worthwhile. The half hour, like either way, you're gonna walk away with something that you're gonna be able to use go forward for the rest of your life. My goal is like no matter how much time you spend with me, that you will save at least 10x that amount of time after we're done. Even and it won't be stupid stuff like helping you rewrite emails or helping you rewrite letters or blog posts or things like that. If that's something that you really want to know, cool, but I can guarantee you it will just come along with what it is that you're going to learn. It's not going to be homework. It is not going to be certified. Um, I can I can guarantee you that I will work very hard uh, at it so that hopefully in the next year it will mean quite a bit that you took a course with me. So that's my like you won't have to get certified. I will make sure that you get certified, right? So I will do the hard work of making it mean something that you took the course, right? All you have to do is take course that you took any sort of class with me, that you trained with me, right? And all you need to do is take something away from it, right? And even if it got to the end of the hour and for and there was some miracle where you really felt like you didn't get anything out of it, all right, I'll give you an hour for free. I don't
I
care.
mean,
We'll keep going. You know what I mean? Like,
that's a deal.
yeah, like
Because
that's
it's honestly, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. That's never gonna happen.
right.
Okay.
No, it's like that's why I don't even care saying that, because
Yeah.
there's no way you work with me for an hour and I start look. And what this is, like I said, there's no homework. This isn't classwork. This isn't coursework. I'm a huge fan of the Socratic method. I'm a huge fan of me teaching you by application and you learning by practical application. Like you actually learning how to leverage this for yourself in your everyday life, whether it's for work or whether it's for personal, right? If you're a mom and you spend a ton of time meal planning, I'm gonna help you cut hours out of your week. If you're a dad and you spend a ton of time doing, I don't know what it is, either maybe you're doing something fantasy football, maybe you're doing some sort of strategies, maybe you're working on your financial planning, who knows? It doesn't matter. Like whatever it is you're working on, I'm going to help you cut so much time out of doing it that you'll be able to put that towards whatever else you want. Right? Maybe you wish you had more time to spend with your kids. Maybe you wish you had more time to spend with your friends, your loved ones, whatever it might be. Maybe you wish you could write a book. You know, get there too. The way in which that I'm going to show you that, and it's completely platform agnostic. So what I'm showing you is not, and what I'm teaching you is not something that's specific to GPT. It's specific to Claude or specific to anything. You'll be able to use any platform. I will suggest platforms for you to use. And when I say platforms for you to use, I mean I've got platforms that cost you $35 for the rest of your life. One time $35 payment, you have access to like 12 different models, and it's ridiculous, right? So in terms of like, you know, tools to recommend to you and stuff like that. Don't even worry about it. It won't. None of that stuff is gonna matter.
Here-
You know.
Here's a question I hope you enjoy answering. I'm pretty sure you will. Why aren't you just, putting up another prompt engineering course for sale?
Oh yeah. Because they're. I love answering this question because they're horseshit, right? Like, if you've taken a prompt engineering course, you have wasted money and time, and I feel so very sorry for you. Because whoever that was got you, and I hate him. I hate him with every fiber of my being. So I'm doing this so that you never have to do that, right? And I'm not even joking when I say you could spend $75. We could spend an hour together. It's not even like, honestly, it's not about the money. And trust me, trust me when I say, my wife's gonna be so pissed. Trust me when I say the money is not going to me. I don't like, you have to understand how little I care about this, like monetarily. The money is directly turning around and going into my Replit projects, which are all softwares that I launch online for people to use for free, like the email validation tool. Currently, they are donation held up, but if this side of things gets going, then you won't even have to donate for the software. You could just use it. I don't care. That's kind of where I'm at. I love spreading knowledge, teaching people, and helping people out. And it's like, if I can do all three things at the same time, so be it. But yeah, you walk away from what I teach you in an hour. You won't need a prompting course. You'll laugh at any of that stuff. There's a reason, guys. There's a reason why a lot of the certificate stuff has kind of gone away, with the exception of like a lot of higher ed certificate stuff now. Like the majority of certificates I see for AI are like ML certificates, like machine learning stuff. They're no longer like prompting certificates and like generative certificates, because it's already too easy, right? It's
Right.
so
I
like,
mean,
if you
that's where
don't know it, right?
this is like a sea change indicative of how people should go about learning now. Like
Mm,
almost anything, certainly anything digital. Like if you're not learning the thing with AI in tow, you're learning it in strictly like a worse way.
yeah.
Like, and like so much of this is just getting your hands dirty. And it's not unlike, again, like the the parallels with how you learn human things and
Mm,
how you learn to manage human relationships. Like, you know how hard it is to learn communication skills without communicating with other human beings? Like,
yep.
it's actually not possible. Like, you don't get good at it unless you take like debate courses or things where you're just practicing out loud, you're practicing with other people.
Mm,
Like, I'm not even a big fan of that stuff, but it's like clearly that's what I've learned over the past year creating content. I'm doing shows with people. Like, I was not any good at all when I started out. And like, and that's where it's like it, it, it's like there's no shortcut because
because it's not
you
required.
you do have to get your hands. It's not even dirty. They're not even getting dirty.
Right,
It's so
right.
easy. Just get
That's
into
what
the
I'm
goddamn
saying.
tool. Like,
Like, we're not even joking, guys. We're not like, so, if you, what would it be like working with me? What it would be like is, we sit down, I talk about, we talk about what you do. We talk about what's your day, what's in your typical day, what's in your non-work typical day. And then we start solving those problems, and we start solving those problems using generative AI. And through doing that, you start seeing how, it's, think about it this way. It's like, you can go to school and you can take an economics course where you spend tons of time in the class learning math, and tons of time learning calculations, and tons of time learning, all the proper terms and stuff like that. Or you could take an economics course that starts out with, hey, here's $100, here's how bills work, Here's how you're going to have to pay bills over the next over the next few days. Here's the chart that you're going to have to keep, and let's work on paying your bills, right? And like the rest will come with it, but you will immediately get something, take something away from it. That's what I'm doing for you. I want to give you those building blocks that like you will take and run. It's not even like teaching you how to fish. It's like I'm giving you the keys to the fish factory, right? All you have to do is just
The
turn
wildlife
them.
preserve is where I like to go with that.
Okay, gotcha. All
Like
right, yeah, yeah.
teaching you how to build more ponds exactly the way you want them,
Mm-hmm.
prepared for the exact kind of fish you want in them.
Yep.
And it's like that's where, and that's the beautiful thing. Like there's no problem guaranteeing this at the end of a half hour or an hour. Like because that's how quickly it's just a mindset shift. Like, and since AI is there to help you through it, like it just takes basically somebody like Nico and like like just redirecting you to the AI, like just get comfortable. That's all it
Mm-hmm.
takes. Just getting comfortable. It's interesting to think about. Like get comfortable being vulnerable with the AI tool because it is a lot of things that we're not good at being vulnerable about when human to human, like
Mm-hmm.
saying, I don't know the answer. Can you help me? Uh, those are the things that make it work the the best because you just learn like through iteration like faster than any other thing that you
Right,
could
and
learn. This
it's
is
not
why,
even like the technical, right? Because it's like
yeah,
don't think of it like again like we're not. I'm not going to teach you prompting. I'm not going to teach you prompts. I'm going to show you a prompt. It's funny that like all along I used to very in the beginning because like I thought that there was something to it, and I still think there is something to the words that you use, the context that you give, and how you describe something. Yes, there is something to that, just like talking to any other human being, right? But is there a very particular prompt that you use to get XYZ? Not that I'm aware of, right? It's kind of what you need to use in order to get XYZ. That's something that you define, and then it will help you to get that, right? So that just kind of goes along with it. It's a matter of, like you say, it's it's how you approach it and going beyond just the fact that it's a tool, going beyond the fact that it's just a reference, right? Like, how much did it change for you when you had your first normal conversation with Claude as opposed to just a problem solving one? How much did it change, like, just your perspective alone on, like, just holy shit, what I could do now with this thing, because, and I'll, again, like, I don't give a damn about teaching people shit for free either. One of the things I'm going to tell every single person, doesn't it'll be in the first 2 seconds that we meet. The first thing I'm going to tell you, everybody asks the biggest question: how do I get started? How do I work with this thing? It's just a person. It's just a digital representation of a person. And the more you treat it like that, and the more you talk to it like that, and the more you interact with it like that, the easier it gets. And the more your mind opens up. And I don't mind telling people because people don't believe it. If they did, then I wouldn't do this. And I know I'm gonna run into people constantly that still do it. But that it really is that easy. It really is that easy to break the barrier. And once you do, again, like working with it as a tool and working with it to help you as an assistant is one thing. But once you actually cross the barrier into conversation, then you really start to open some stuff up. You really, I mean, look, my wife's got one that's a journal. She's got another one that's sort of like a advisor, right? I've got my own advisor. I have one that's a mimic of myself that like I ask, basically strategic questions to
right.
to get a second opinion from me of what the objective version of me might do in that scenario, right?
Oh man,
Yeah, like it goes in so many different directions. So
yeah,
the learning how to use this stuff. Somebody was asking me earlier today, like, how do I stay relevant with graphic design, or not with graphic design? How do I stay relevant with RevOps in a world of AI? Like, as in, especially with what's going on with Breeze, like with what's going on with HubSpot and Salesforce, like, I've talked about it a couple times. We've talked about it a couple times that, like, yeah, eventually you're going to have your own generative CRM. But beyond that, and what Salesforce is already working towards, and what Microsoft is already working towards, is what we talked about a few weeks ago on Wake Up with AI, which was like agent as an interface. So if you thought that Jarvis was weird, tough shit, because that's the future. One day, I wish I was joking, folks. One day you're going to wake up and your work is going to be this digital assistant, and you're going to wake up and you and your digital assistant are going to do whatever it is that you do all day. And that's just the way it's going to be. There's not, so in terms of SaaS being dead, like, that's kind of what that looks like. You're not going to interface with software anymore. You're going to interface with a thing that interfaces with the software. Right. Like, that's what that, in my opinion, I think that's where we're at, easily inside of 10 years, but for sure. Like, I think easily inside of 5, but for sure in 10 years we're at that point. Right. And so my advice to them was just the same as everybody else. Learn to either, learn to get along if you're trying to go along. Otherwise, gonna get left behind. Oh, you're on mute, buddy.
Thank you.
It's all good.
Because you definitely want to hear this one.
Yeah.
Uh, Laura says, I think the most valuable thing you taught me was how to communicate with AI, person to person.
Mm.
And my output drastically changed after that.
Yeah.
Um, and that's it. Like, that's the thing you cannot get from a prompting. Like, nobody can give you that, right? Like, you've got to, because there's a lot to developing the eye, um, for the words that are on the screen and how they're changing. And because that's also the thing, like, if you lean too heavy into prompt
Mm-hmm.
engineering and like templated prompts, like, you're not going to learn shit,
No, and you're
right?
going to you're going to lock yourself into, how do I fold this into this prompt, right? Which is horseshit. Or you're going to see these prompts that, like, they have the gaps in them, and, oh, I'll just fill in the gap. That's horseshit too, right? It
Yeah.
shouldn't it shouldn't be
And
like that. You're not It's not meant to be like that. It
right.
really isn't. It's not designed to have a one size fits all answer.
All right. And that's why, like, uh like I caught on pretty early, just because that's, like, for me, that's the ADHD at work, where it's very hard to, like, single track, like, move forward. And as soon as it gives me another avenue to go down, like, I'm taking it, like, every damn time. And that happens with the first response in
Mm,
most times. So it was GPT and then Claude. But as soon as I realized, like, I'm having conversations that I was not planning to have, like, with the first prompt, it's like, that's all you do. You just get it started and then go, like, go with it. It's like a conversation. Um, and you just learn so much. And that's where it's like, so much of the idea behind templated prompts is like, push button, get cookie.
mm-hmm.
And it's like, if you're just trying to one shot everything every time and just be done, like, that's not what it's for. Like,
Right.
it's there to be a partner in a lot of this activity. And oh man, I'll say I'm excited that you're launching that. I think it's going to be a ton of value.
I
And
am. I'm looking forward to teaching and training a lot of people. I know that I know that a lot of y'all have just been waiting for me to do something in terms of either writing a guide or putting some stuff out there. So this is going to be uh, a little bit of all of it. Well, basically, it's going to be all of it because I'm going to be doing some training, obviously, and then the mentorship aspect of it works where basically just it's like an ongoing coach essentially, and like you come back every once in a while when you need a tune up or a refresher on stuff that you want to know, or if you want to just catch up on stuff too, show me something, or you want me to show you some stuff that I'm working on, works like that too. So yeah, I'm
When
looking forward to it.
when can we start signing up for this stuff?
It's gonna be tomorrow. I'm gonna launch everything tomorrow. I'll make it as loud as I possibly can,
Oh yeah,
and look forward to it. Yeah.
excellent. Wow, that's going to be an exciting end to this exciting week. Let me tell
Yeah.
you. Um, well, I think that's a good place to ship this one, man. What do you think?
Yeah. I think that'll do it.
Awesome. Well, I hope it goes well tomorrow. I'm sure I'll be hearing about it, and if anybody's interested already, I'm sure you wouldn't mind if you reach out. So we'll see how it goes, and I think we're expecting Aaron on the show next Tuesday uh,
Yes.
um, to talk. I do want to get into like the consciousness stuff. Like there is a layer behind this
Oh yeah.
that we get to talk about, like beyond where we're going, and it's going to be fun. And she had some great ideas that she brought to the table, so it's going to be an exciting chat. Um, but until next time, man, everybody have a great Thursday night.
See you guys. Cool.